Alrighty, so we'll make a start. We've got a very full morning ahead of us. So I'll start with opening karakia. Tuia ki runga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki roto, tuia ki waho, tuia tātou te tangata, ki te kaupapa o te hui nei, ki te kaupapa o te rangi nei, mōri ora ki a tātou katoa. Bind above, bind below, bind within, bind beyond. Bind us, the people, to the purpose of our meeting, to the purpose of this day. Breathe life into all of us. Which is very appropriate today. Thank you everybody for coming in. We've got a very full public forum and a very full room, it's lovely to see everybody here today. So just some quick housekeeping. So welcome to everybody. We have some people who are joined on Zoom. To remind you that this meeting is being live streamed and will be available on the Council's YouTube channel. Could you please keep your microphones muted, and if you haven't turned off your phone yet, could you please turn it off? Just turning off my laptop. Teams attendees, could you please turn off your camera and microphone until we're into the confidential session. We have toilets are just out in the lobby, and we have fire exits here and here. I feel like I'm on a plane. The media are present. We've got Max in the corner of the room there, and we often have media joining online. We do have some hearing assistance if you need it in the public area, which is just down by Murray there in the public forum. So I'd appreciate everybody's help today. We've had a lot of people wanting to speak in public forum today. We've extended the time, and unfortunately, an apology to those people, we've had to stop some people from speaking because we just had so many apply to come in. So it's great to have everybody speaking, but it's never, it's pretty sad to have to turn people away. But we do appreciate everybody coming in this morning. I'll need help from elected members. If we can keep to task and on point today, that would really help because, as I say, we've extended the time for public forum, so everything else is going to have to move along quite quickly. So next we have an apology from the Mayor, who is away on other business. Do we have any other apologies, so far as I'm aware? No. Pardon? No. Oh, yeah. I was getting to that. So I'll move those from the chair. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councillor Butler. So thank you. So now we'll move into public for all those in favour. All right, none against. Thank you. So moving to public forum, just so you know, everybody has 5 minutes to speak. We have the lovely row on with the timer. She'll ding a bell at 4 minutes and then at 5. Just so that you are aware, having been in public forum a number of times myself, the councillors can only ask questions of clarification if there is time at the end of your presentation. It does sometimes look like we're stunned mullets looking back at you, and because it's hard to engage, but that's part of the rules of public forum and how it happens. I can assure you, while we do look like stunned mullets, somebody called us once, we are listening, okay, and we do take it on board. So thank you. So I think first up we have Dave Oliver.
Thank you. The Goodman Ledger wastewater pumping station was built in 1949 for a population of 2,500. It's been expanded and upgraded since, and approximately 80% of the wastewater from Motueka's current population passes through it. Okay. Due to recurring problems related to this station, a petition was circulated late last year and signed by 107 residents. The pumping station has two fundamental environmental problems. It has a long history of sewer gas emissions, and now sewage overflows onto the streets and into the groundwater. Complaints about the sewer gas odor go back to at least 2014. According to the New Zealand Institute for Public Health and Forensic Science, health effects of sewer gas, that is hydrogen sulfide or H2S, even at lowest concentrations are a rotten egg smell, nausea, tearing of the eyes, headaches, and loss of sleep. Persistent odors also have mental health effects. A large number of our survey respondents have experienced physical symptoms which match those of H2S, and even more have experienced mental health symptoms as described by PHF Science. A carbon filtration system was installed in 2019. Odors have continued to the present. The system is unreliable because, 1, there is no replacement schedule for carbon media. 2, there's an inadequate system to ensure that required supplies and ordered work is actually completed and effective. And 3, the carbon media has an indeterminate service life, a short shelf life, and a long lead time for replacement. Even more distressing, in at least one case, an odor complaint was made. Someone was sent out to investigate. The investigating individual said they couldn't smell anything and the case was closed. In fact, the council does not let residents who lodge a complaint know what has been done to resolve it or if the work was effective. Finally, and most important, there are technologies to reduce or eliminate the production of sewer gas. For example, the use of electricity to prevent creation of sewer gas or mitigation of H2S by sulfate reducing bacteria. We ask council for the following solutions to the odor problem. 1, full-time remote monitoring of sewer gas escaping the filtration system with data available to the public online. 2, use of statistical processes to determine filter life rather than single point measurements. 3, systems to prevent formation of H2S rather than relying simply on filtration. And 4, transparent tracking of responses to complaints, which details what has been done to resolve a complaint, its effectiveness, and the data available to the public online. During the June 27 flooding, the pumping station was overwhelmed by stormwater. Sewage was deposited on the streets, onto Goodman Ledger Park, and on some private land. This sewage reached the water table and contaminated several drinking water bores. Council engineering told residents that their bores were unsecure and needed to be sealed. A homeowner can apply best practices to maintenance of their bore, but there is nothing a homeowner can do to prevent groundwater pollution. If groundwater contamination is caused by pumping station overflows, only council can take steps to prevent it. Sewage overflows are an offense against the Health Act, and the council, as owner of this pumping station, is clearly responsible for its safe operation. Any argument that the June rain event is a rare event is spurious. Since 2019, rain has caused 60% of the Motueka wastewater system failures. Climate change will only make rainfall events worse. The majority of stormwater entering the wastewater system was through roof-down pipes discharging directly into wastewater connection. Council admits it must be more diligent in inspecting private properties to reduce this infiltration. We are asking for the following solutions to the overflow problem. 1, we would ask council to be more diligent in taking steps to prevent stormwater intrusion into the wastewater system and to take responsibility for its current stormwater and wastewater infrastructure, plan for and fund repairs and upgrades to handle existing rain events and increases for the foreseeable future. Thank you. And I have given the chair a full copy of my report. It was considerably gutted to just squeak under 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Dave. You did a phenomenal job at condensing all of that and making your point extremely well. So thank you very much for coming in today, and to all your supporters who have joined you as well.
Any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Mr. Bajent.
Hello. We, Pam, Craig and George Bajent of 313 Wakefield Kohatu Highway object to the possibility of the unformed paper road between Wakefield and Waiiti Recreation Reserve being opened up for the cycleway. This road runs through the middle of Ayers and the Lyons family farms. It is not on flat land, being average slope to very steep, with many springs along its length that ooze water most of the year and flow considerable volumes after rain. The face of the hill is scarred with slips and slumps, many of which have occurred in my lifetime. For those who have taken the time to look into the hill at the northern end, seeing is believing. In our property, it travels through 6 different paddocks, all on a slope, one section too steep for a bulldozer to sidle. Likewise, most of the way to the Costello property at the northern end. All hill paddocks need vehicle access for farm management, especially in winter for feeding supplement, i.e. hay, baleage or silage. It is also visible behind 201 Wakefield Kohatu Highway, where slipping occurred approximately 3 years ago and has continued slipping since, taking out the boundary fence and spoil depositing in the neighbouring property. A fresh slump is also visible on the Lyons family farm. For this proposal to even be thought of, retaining walls would have to be substantial for in excess of 2 kilometres, all dirt be removed in construction process. As the track must be flat, this encourages water to waterlog the fresh cut and then attract slumps. Using a jackhammer to drive the posts, both for retaining walls and fence either side of the track, would in fact vibrate so much the soil substrata would be damaged. Anyone who has been party to driving posts could confirm this. We therefore believe this proposal is not considering the environment, but is in fact environmental abuse. We have concerns over this proposal in regards to people wanting to roam, commonly called trespassing. Biosecurity. As part of the farming operation, we have farm audits every 3 years. This proposal leaves no traceability to who goes through the middle of our property. If an incursion was to occur, how is MPI meant to trace the source? This is of concern when overseas visitors and people from out of the region would be using it. We also have concerns over our farm being used as a toilet and rubbish stop. Since the flood last year, our roadside paddocks are not littered with Powerade and H2Go bottles. The willow tree, 16 metres inside our road gate, doesn't have tissues under it from being a public toilet. We also have major concerns for the users of Tanaka Forest under this proposal. Presently, whether it be walkers, runners, horse riders, mountain bikes, dog walkers, it is an unleashed exercise area for dogs. All users are on the same footing. This proposal, we believe, would jeopardise horse riders and dogs being able to free run the Tanaka Loop. This proposal is not an asset to the properties that it joins or goes through, but in fact will be a permanent liability to the affected titles. Thank you for taking the time to listen, and we hope you will consider the views of the property owners that this proposal affects the most. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bagent. We've got a little bit of time. Does anyone have any questions of clarification? Councillor Neubauer?
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to hear from you whether you see any opportunities personally as a landowner from having a whole lot of tourists coming close by through your land or near your land.
Sorry. As an advantage or a disadvantage to us, sorry?
Yeah, I'm asking whether you see any opportunities in there economically, like.
No, that would have to go to a tourism sort of a enterprise. For a disadvantage, we see stock management as being a lot harder, especially moving stock. In the wintertime, when it is wet, even now, anybody that's driven a tractor on a hill slope knows where you start and where you stop. Quite often there's different things. And for how they would fence it, we would end up sometimes in 2 paddocks ending up in the fence, I believe, which is a danger to us. The unfortunate thing with modern society is people see things, they think they can help, but in actual fact they cause problems, especially at lambing time. The front of our hill, after we scan, we lamb all our twin-bearing ewes, and people going backwards and forwards would not let them settle, especially at lambing time. There's also the issue, although in other places they say dogs are meant to be banned, dogs will walk it, and that is not helpful for stock.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bagent. We're now out of time. So thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate it. Mrs. Lyons, are you ready to? Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. We are a sixth and a seventh and an eighth generation farm. We have had the cycle trail go through the bottom of our property. We had no issues with it. I'm a cyclist. I would like to speak directly to the impact of the proposed option for the cycle trail that will have on our farming practice, using what can only be described as an antiquated paper road system. We farm both sides of a very busy main road, making stock management pretty difficult already. We have to transport by truck, our stock from one side of the road to the other. The option of using the paper road, which runs the full length of our hill block, is going to effectively cut our farm in thirds. The hill is 80 acres, and the proposed paper road runs the full length of the road. We have 4 blocks on the proposed cycle trail side, and another 4 blocks that run down into the 88 Valley side with no road access. We run cattle, sheep, and a large bull, and I don't know how we propose, or you propose, that we are going to shift stock safely. It's a huge risk, I think, to cyclists with a bull that might rampage down the cycle trail. The hill is steep and very stony. We've got, the part of it is like a bluff. So my concerns that the stock shifting boulders and rocks and things which will crash to the bottom of the hill, causing a huge risk to cyclists, and I don't know how you would mitigate that. Also, the hill has 4 springs on it, all pretty much directly where the proposed cycle trail will go. So the earthworks involved in I don't know how you're going to get around that, because and at times when we have heavy rain, they are cascading waterfalls. And another concern that I have is with the earth movement to build the cycle trail, how that's going to impact on our farm and cause further slips and slumps you know, farming's really hard. It's really hard. And I think the proposed site that you are thinking about is going to really make it incredibly difficult for us. Farming's already really hard. Please do the right thing by us all. We're, you know, rural. We're your rural constituents. Please.
Thank you. Are you happy to take some questions of clarification if there are any? Does anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
In the event of this going ahead, would your expectation be, if it's practical, that both sides of the legal access are fenced?
I would hope that you would fence that.
Yeah.
Both sides, that's 4 blocks on the cycle trail. We have, it's not a lifestyle block, it's a working
It's an operating
farm.
farm. Yeah.
It's a working farm.
Yeah.
Stock management is everything. We have to shift stock. How are we going to shift that across the cycleway?
No, I understand your concerns, and that's something for councillors to really work through the impact on an operating farm.
Councillor Morgan,
you.
it's just questions of clarification. Thank you. Not a discussion. Are there any other questions of clarification? No. Thank you for coming in today. We really appreciate you coming in. Okay, do we have Ange up next?
Talking. Kia ora koutou. I am Ange Vanderlaan. I am the Regional Field Advisor to the Outdoor Access Commission Herenga Anuku. We are the government advisors on public outdoor access. One particular area of interest for us is unformed legal roads. We have published the guidelines for the management of unformed legal roads. I will leave these here for anyone who's interested in some bedtime reading. Just some of the projects I'm working on in Tasman include working with the Golden Bay Mountain Bike Club to legalise trail over private land, incidentally a farm, Golden Bay Cycling and Walking Society to legalise their visionary plan to connect Abel Tasman National Park with Kahurangi National Park, and advocating for improved public access around coastal Collingwood. That one. So why am I here? I am speaking in support of the Tasman Great Taste Trails preferred options. I'm here to talk specifically about unformed legal road and provide examples of where unformed legal road has been used for trails. So what is the value of unformed legal roads? For us in the recreation space, it's connectivity, it's legal access to public conservation land, it's recreation, i.e. trails, and huge benefit, they already exist as legal entities. Roads are vested in councils and trust for the public. This is a fundamental concept in understanding unformed legal roads. TDC is the roading authority here, but the access rights along unformed legal roads belong to the public, and TDC holds the land in trust for public use. So roads are vested in councils in trust for the public, and they are usually about 20 metres wide. Adjoining landowners have often provided an excellent service to council with free maintenance of this public space. They've often benefited from unchallenged free use of that land as well. Neither of these confer a right of occupation or ownership. It's important for adjoining landowners, council and the Tasman Great Taste Trails Trust to work together to ensure the best possible trail outcome. Landowners do have an opportunity to agree to an alternative trail alignment if the unformed legal road doesn't suit their operations. They could even apply for road stopping if there is agreement to a legal easement over private land. Normally, Herenga Nuku, the Outdoor Access Commission, would object to road stopping proposals if there's no alternative access provided and there is some benefit from the unformed legal road. We would not if there was equal alternative access negotiated in this case. A couple of quick examples. The Whare Huanui Trail in Queenstown, that runs through, that's the bottom of Coronet Peak there on the northern side. That shaded area is owned by one property owner. You'll see there's unformed legal road, that purple straight line that bisects it. The trail, in fact, is the white line that the landowner agreed to. They haven't stopped the road. There's some suggestion there may be development of this block in future. The landowner was happy to agree to something that suited them better. Second case study is north of Auckland. It's a connector between Scollum Road and Rodney Road. You can see it's very rural there. That's a walking trail that's been marked out to connect to other roads. So, in conclusion, roads are public land. They're held in trust by the council. Unformed legal roads have the same legal standing as formed roads. Unformed legal roads can be valuable recreational assets, and the Outdoor Access Commission will not object to road stopping if alternative equal access is legalised. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. We have a little bit of time for questions. Have you got one as well? Councillor McNamara.
Thank you for the presentation. You made a statement about some of the roads are 20 metres wide. Is this road 20 metres wide?
I can't confirm that, but it looks like that on the mapping.
Councillor Fernie-Home.
Thank you through the chair. Thanks for your report. My question would be, if this does go ahead, what support are we able to offer the landowners? We're hearing these concerns about making sure that their farm isn't interrupted, making sure that there's correct fencing in place, that we're not ultimately causing more damage and then slips. What protections are in place for the people who this will impact the most?
That's a question for the Tasman Great Taste Trail. I've not been involved in any of the engineering discussions about that, but what I would emphasise is that it's very important for affected landowners to be sitting at the table to have the conversation.
And although we're out of time, if you've got a very quick question of clarification, Councillor Neubauer.
Yeah, thank you. And great presentation. Are you aware from your work of any solutions where farmers need to move stock from one side of a trail to another, how to overcome that barrier?
Not specifically. There will be some though. In that Coronet Peak, the Whare Huanui Trail, there's one farmer, Chris Dagg, and he has got trail impacting his farming operation quite significantly. So he will be needing to, he's worked with the trust on that, although did not agree to an easement.
Okay, thank you. We're well out of time now, so I appreciate you coming in today. Can we have Nikki McBride up, please?
Thank you for this opportunity to convey the enormity of the consequences if Tasman's Great Taste Trail does not become re-established between Wakefield and Belgrove. As an owner of the longest established local cycle tour company operating on Tasman's Great Taste Trail, we are part of an industry that makes a significant contribution to the local economy. The cycling industry generates income for many local businesses in many ways. I'll attempt to highlight the commercial implications of a severed storm-damaged trail. Due to storm damage, a temporary route using Quail Valley and 88 Valley roads was in place this season. This has allowed some cyclists to complete the trail loop and to get to and from Spooner's Tunnel. However, this temporary arrangement didn't provide a solution for everyone. When this detour was presented to customers, some have chosen not to use this road option and either cancelled their tour or reduced the length of their tour and subsequently the time spent in the area. The detour is not family friendly, and some operators offering day rides from Spooners Tunnel have either withdrawn the tour from sale or observed a decline in sales. When cyclists complete the full loop of Tasman's Great Taste Trail, they spend 4 to 8 days on the trail, as well as time spent in the region before or after their cycle tour. They spend money in local businesses as they move around the region. The extent of expenditure will be addressed in another presentation. Potential customers of cycle tour companies, as well as independent travellers, get to know about Tasman's Great Taste Trail because of the marketing that companies such as ours do. Nelson Tasman Cycle Trail Trust also promote the trail and the region. However, the greatest visibility comes because the trail is one of 22 others throughout the country that have the Great Ride of New Zealand status. This status means that the trail is promoted through the New Zealand Cycle Trails, Tourism New Zealand, and Nelson Regional Development Agency. Having the status of a Great Ride also means that central government funding is available through the Trust to pay local contractors to build, maintain and repair the trail. This is another important source of revenue for local companies. As a region, we're in a privileged position to have a Great Ride. Other trails have been built elsewhere in the country that do not have Great Ride status. What we have should not be taken for granted, and it is essential that the Tasman's Great Taste Trail maintains its Great Ride status. It is imperative that we continue to have as much off-road trail as possible. Over the last few years, as more trails around the country are off-road, the expectations and needs of customers are that they don't want to ride on roads. We're in a competitive market, attracting cyclists from New Zealand and overseas to come to ride Tasman's Great Taste Trail, and if the current arrangements were to continue, the trail would become the poor relation of the New Zealand Cycle Trail network. The trail would struggle to attract cyclists to ride the full loop. This would negatively impact on a range of businesses in the region, especially those in rural areas away from the coastline. As I'm primarily presenting from a commercial perspective, I haven't addressed the concerns of local cyclists who share the same reservations as visitors about riding on the 88 Quail Valley Road sections. Local cyclists are, however, part of the local economy, and it is important to address any obstacles that reduce locations that local cyclists go to and subsequently spend money there. As an industry bringing millions of dollars to the region, it is essential that the trail is resilient and off-road, connecting Wakefield to Spooners Tunnel and beyond. I therefore support using the unformed legal road route because it achieves that key element of getting that entire Wakefield to Waiiti section off-road, not reinstating the trail, but taking this opportunity to make it better.
Fabulous timing. Thank you so much, Nikki. We don't have any time for questions, but thank you for coming in and providing the information that you have in advance. Elizabeth, who's from the Tasman Great Taste Trails.
I'm Liz Escrick, a trustee with the Mountain Bike Trails Trust. I wish to present a case for the restoration of the Tasman Great Taste Trail from Waiiti Reserve to Quail Valley, the southern end of the Wakefield Quail Valley route. The Wakefield community has a vested interest in this section of the Tasman Great Taste Trail, as the Kainui Bike Park uses the trail as its sole public access point. Kainui has been developed on 141 land under an agreement with the Mountain Bike Trails Trust. The Mountain Bike Trails Trust facilitates the building of the tracks, working with community volunteers. In its first year, the Wakefield Community Group put in 1,800 hours of labour, with the digger used for another 400 hours. So far, 6 kilometres of track has been built, and there are plans for more. There's widespread commitment from local businesses for the park, ranging from the Wakefield Bakery to the Wakefield Medical Centre and through to Taylor's Construction. That's only naming a few. The park's point of difference is that at the community's request, we've built trails with easier grades and technical challenges suitable to family riding, which is something that's not found very often in Nelson. The area is also open to walkers and runners. Along with the Great Taste Trail, the Kainui Bike Park received extensive damage in the 2025 storm. Using qualified volunteers, the windfall clearance is now nearing completion. The section of the Tasman Great Taste Trail from Waiiti Reserve to Quell Valley does require some remedial work, but is essentially still in place. I'm hopeful that the council members will give recognition to the community interest and effort shown here and reopen this section of the Tasman Great Taste Trail to enable the full development of the Kainui Bike Park. Thanks for the opportunity to present. Any questions?
How are we going time-wise? 2 minutes, great. We've got time for questions. Councillor Neubauer.
Just for my clarification, you are talking about the route along the Waiiti River, is that correct?
That's right. To Quell Valley.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, thank you so much for coming in today. And now we have Gillian.
Kia ora koutou. Madam Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to present to the Council. We just seem to have skipped one, but never mind, that's all right, it was only an introductory slide. So I have presented here before, but as a reminder, and for new councillors, some very brief background. Tasman's Great Taste Trail is one of New Zealand's great rides. As a great ride, it is eligible for central government great ride funding. To date, all extreme weather event recovery has been fully funded from central government funds. Until last year's floods, over 1 million in the past 10 years, and now an additional 2 million since the event last year in June and July. It is positioned as a family-friendly trail to attract visitors to the region. The trail gets an enormous amount of use. Over 500,000 passes have been clocked up on our counters across the trail in the past 12 months. And that's including the period following the flooding when significant parts of the trail were taken out of action. An independent economic analysis estimated regional benefits in 2023-24 of $34 million. And that was post-COVID when visitor numbers were still building. So visitors numbers will be a lot more now. This is trail user-related spending, so it doesn't include that central government funding also brings money into the region for employment of local contractors on trail construction and maintenance. So to the impact of last year's floods on the trail and the repair work to date, It's a little bit hard to see on the slides, but the slides to the left, the red on those slides, are the sections of the trail that were taken out by the flooding. With 1.6 million of flood recovery funding to date from MBIE, from central government, about 95% of the trail is now back open. Still to be reinstated in the image on the right is the Pukeroro Bridge, which is a very small red dot down Motueka Valley. The work there is underway. There is $437,000 budgeted for this out of the $1.6 million trail recovery funding. It's an old bridge and was likely that in future some significant work would have been required to keep it open for the community and would have had to have been funded locally. And the other section, of course, is Wakefield to Quail Valley. The Trust is strongly of the view that the recommended option in the paper you are considering, the unformed legal road, is the only viable option to deliver to Great Ride standards and provide a good rider experience. It is off-road and includes the Holt Valley to Waiti section, which is currently on-road on the state highway. It is much more resilient than the previous route close to the river. It will also provide community shared facility for walkers and joggers, which the former Riverside route provided. 88 Valley and Quail Valley roads are arguably another option. That route is the best we've been able to offer as a temporary detour, but would be a big step backwards as a permanent part of the trail, increasing the amount of on-road riding. It's a nice road ride on a fine calm day. I've ridden it in a southerly heading towards Lake Rotoiti and in a northerly coming the other way. It's a wind funnel in both southerly and northerly, and it's nearly twice the distance, and some sections are narrow. One of the questions I ask when looking at route options is, would you take your child or grandchild on it? I certainly wouldn't. We would also lose the Waiti to Quail Valley section, for which $427,000 of Great Ride funding was announced earlier this month. So that's the section that Liz was referring to in terms of access to the Kainui Bike Park. That section, the Kainui Bike Park aside, is a much loved section of the trail. And as I said, and as Liz has mentioned, provides access to the Kainui Bike Park. We get regular feedback from people who ride the trail that they don't like on-road sections, and one of our objectives is to take more trail off-road. Finally, looking at the landowner concerns, and we appreciate that putting trail across rural land, across farms, does create some challenges, but we endeavour to engage with the farmers and to work out the best option we can. So if I might just have some time, I would like just to address those concerns. Thank you. So farming disruption. Every other section of the trail that passes through farm properties operates successfully with existing fence lines, additional fencing, gates and water troughs where needed. These are standard trail building costs. They are incorporated into the costs that we have estimated for the trail build. We've more than 15 years of precedent doing exactly this across the trail and other sections of the trail. Trespassing and illegal activity. There are no recorded complaints of trespassing or illegal activity on any existing trail section passing through or adjacent to private farmland. A fenced designated trail provides better control than an unfenced paper road with no formal management. Edward Street to Higgins Road section in Wakefield is a local example. Motorbikes and quad bikes, physical barriers such as squeeze bars are standard and a part of the construction cost. Slips and instability. Geotechnical and engineering assessments will be completed before anything is built. Trail building practice has advanced significantly since the trail was first built, and resilience is now built into the design from the beginning. There was a comment not in the submissions that have been presented today, but in the submissions that I saw, in written submissions, that there is a risk that once the trail is built, the trail builders just walk away. There is no evidence of that. There is ongoing Great Ride funding from central government, as well as in your long-term plan. It covers annual management and maintenance. This trail will be actively managed in perpetuity. It is not intended to abandon it. It is a great ride. And finally, I would make the point that we are very open to discussing alignment adjustments, as Ange commented, can be made with affected landowners if there are places that they think would be less disruptive to their farming activities. But we do put in appropriate fences, gates, etc. to do our best to resolve any issues that they have.
Okay, thank you, Gillian. We're well out of time, so we can't take
Sure.
any questions right now. We may be able to cover them later as we're discussing this item in the agenda after morning tea. So thank you very much for coming in. That's the last of our presentations in public forum. Again, thank you all so much for coming in. We'd love to have the opportunity to hear from our community, so thank you. Thank you. So moving on, I just want to see if we have any declarations of interest for today's agenda. Councillor Melling.
Yep. Madam Chair, I'm going to declare an interest on this item 8.2, the Great Taste Trail. I have a family member who backs onto it, so I won't be taking part. I'll leave the room.
Thank you. And Councillor Neubauer.
Same item. I run a tourism business, and that business is an official sponsor of the Cycle Trail Trust. However, I don't think that the benefit to the so there's an interest in the success of the trail because that obviously brings in more tourists. But I don't think that my interest is material enough to step back.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay. Councillor Woods, sorry, I didn't see your hand up there.
That's all right. In my time at New Zealand Hops, I had a personal acquaintance with the members of one of the farms. So I do know them, I do sympathise with their arguments, but I think it will not affect my decision-making process.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So you're not going to step away from the table?
I don't think I need to, no.
Okay, thank you. Right, so now we have some minutes to confirm. These are the minutes of the meeting of the 2nd of April 2026. We have a mover, Councillor Neubauer, and a seconder, Councillor Hume. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion is carried. Thank you. So next, as we move into reports, we've just got Mirka would like to make an introduction for the team for us, please. And as they're coming up to the, are you coming up to the table? Yeah, you may as well. I just want to take this opportunity to note that Rob is now back, and I'd like to thank Mirka, Katrina, and Leif for stepping in while he's been away. Maybe we didn't miss you quite as much as we thought we may have. They've done a fantastic job, so thank you all for stepping in and doing so much extra work for us.
Thank you. Just very quickly, I know it's a busy schedule today. This is Polly. Polly is our new office administrator for the environmental science, environmental data monitoring, hazards, rivers, and biomanagement teams. So I thought it would be good to introduce her. If you guys have got any questions relating to any of our 4 teams, channel them through Polly and she will make sure they go onto the right system for all of us. Thanks.
Thank you. Welcome, Polly. Thank you for joining the Tasman team. We appreciate it. And welcome. Okay, so next on the agenda, we're looking for the retrospective approval of the submission on the proposed changes to the land transport rules reform. Are we having Bill up to the table? Morning, Bill.
Yeah, kia ora. Just by way of introduction, I'm Bill Rice, Senior Transport Advisor for those councillors who haven't come across me before. This report is really just seeking retrospective approval for a submission that was made on the Lane Use Amendment Bill. And we sought some feedback from councillors before we submitted. Generally, very few comments, but there was some feedback on proposal number 2, which is the requirement for minimum passing distance when passing cyclists. But there were 3 councillors who weren't supportive of that. Staff have continued with that submission, primarily on the base that the risk is much higher for cyclists than for motor vehicles. That close passing is widely recognised as a significant safety risk, and that these sorts of measures are common internationally. But we acknowledge it is not a silver bullet, and I often say that there are no silver bullets in road safety, and most of what we do is incremental improvements, and staff felt that this would result in an incremental improvement for safety for cyclists. So happy to take questions.
Thank you, Bill. I'll open the floor for questions, and I'll be looking for a mover and a seconder as well. Councillor Newbar.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. I'm happy to move it, and it's not a question, just a comment. Bill, that's a really great submission, great work. I know there's been a bit of controversy around some of the items, and I think you handled it really well. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor McNamara.
Thank you. I have a procedural question as why it wasn't brought to council before it was submitted.
It was largely a time issue. That we had 4 weeks to complete the submission, and yeah, so if we didn't have time to go through the process of bringing it to a full council.
So, through the chair, given that some of us did raise objections, it was stated that as due to a lack of a formal position, we proceeded with the submission. I'm just wondering how we'd have input if we don't have time to bring it to council beforehand.
Yeah, through the chair, that's an issue we have with a lot of material that government sends out for consultation, and we very often have to come for retrospective approval. If that approval is not forthcoming, we have the ability to withdraw the submission.
Then I'll state my position as I won't be approving the submission as it stands.
Thank you. Councillor Greening.
Thanks, Chair. Just want to get a handle on the process. So are these submissions formally from council or from staff?
Through the chair, it is from council.
They're from council. So when council provides feedback, and I think there was 3 people who provided feedback, was there any opposition from councillors to that feedback?
There seems to be a few yeses around the room.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for an answer. Okay. Mike?
Oh, sorry. There were a few yeses around the room. You may not have heard them.
Yeah. So staff, can you indicate how many opposed that position? You indicated in your report 3-4, but in the report it's not reported that there were anyone countering that. So how many were countering that?
There was one email we received countering that opposition.
One email. So 3 in favour, 1 against, and this is a submission from council. Wouldn't that indicate that there is more support for the proposition put forward by the 3 than against?
through the chair, we have, I guess, taken silence as support.
For the proposition of the three councillors?
No, he's stated, Councillor Greening, that they no response from councillors was counted as support, and there's a few nods around the room that support that position.
Okay, so I think that's a bold statement, because I don't think silence is ever deemed acquiescence in law.
We've just stated that plenty of councillors have supported that position.
Well, I mean, we'll get to the vote, which will support it, but my understanding was there was only one email against it and 3 for it. And based on that data, you'd think the proposition would be the one advocated by the 3, given there was a lack of negative against it. So I'm just wondering, is this how it goes? Like, are we to assume that if there is silence, we are agreeing with staff, but not agreeing with the people who raised the argument? Because the email discussions were pretty persuasive from the 3. There was one response from other councillors, and I took that as, well, no one else was opposing it. Clearly, the 3 who were making the argument were successful.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm surprised that staff read that any other way without receiving more emails from councillors.
Okay, thank you. Barry would like to make a response to that.
Yeah, look, ultimately, the Mayor signed the submission off, so he made the final decisions on the content of that submission.
So does that mean, through the chair, that it's not the councillors who make the submission, it's just the Mayor?
Well, it's been a combination of feedback from councillors and staff advice.
Right, so does that mean that councillor feedback, which appeared to be in the majority, was ignored and overwritten by the Mayor?
No, it doesn't. I think your point's been made now, Councillor
Well, what
Greening.
does it mean? Can staff answer? What does it mean then?
Well, it's meant that they have had some
process here.
discussion with some councillors. There has been some emails. That is not the only part of where the discussion has formed, and the ultimate decision to, okay, the sending was with the Mayor at this time. Councillor Fernie-Ho, did you have a comment or a question? And note, we're still looking for a seconder.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm happy to second this. Thanks, Bill, for your report. As Councillor Neubauer said, I agreed with it. I thought it was well written. I very much support giving cyclists space to pass cleanly, and my understanding is that 3 councillors who have expressed idea do not show the support of 15 of us who sit around the table. And so if there are 3 in opposition and the rest are not in opposition, I do not see that being the majority. So thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Oh, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I guess this is a learning for all of us, because actually I was one of those silent ones, because I actually thought that the 3 that had inputted actually got some traction. So a really good learning for me, probably others around the room too.
Thank you. Councillor Woods.
I'll pick up on Trinity. I think my problem was that the opposition did actually, the opposing emails did actually express my concerns. I'd seen them raised and I remained silent, but I don't think it should have been taken as my consent.
Yeah, that's the joy of good, as Councillor Walker said, it's a good learning for everybody that we take the opportunities when they are presented to us. I'm still looking for a second. Did you want to have a question or a comment? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through the Chair, I guess we've also got to be careful, because the request from feedback specifically came from staff to give feedback back to staff. So I also didn't respond. I was actually happy with the proposal, but I did pick up on terms of the comments around the passing lanes and the trucks and Councillor McNamara's experience in terms of how that worked. But I still couldn't get to the point where I'm going, by ignoring it or opposing it, does it have a higher safety impact or a lower safety impact? So I guess we don't interact with each other in terms of those feedbacks. The feedback request was really clear. If you have feedback, please feedback to Bill before the submission goes. But as it's been highlighted, if members are absolutely against the submission, as you vote now will be whether it's withdrawn or it stays, but I'll be supporting it.
Okay, thank you. Maybe it's a good idea to clarify all these processes for the future as we're sending out those emails. So thank you, Bill.
Can I have
I'd like to
division,
put
please?
Sorry?
Division, please.
Okay, I'd like to put the motion, and can we have a division, please?
Oh, I was going to, point of order, Madam Chair, I was just going to suggest maybe you might want to break out support for parts of a submission rather than the whole thing.
To be honest, we've got quite a tight schedule. The submission's already gone in. We've got a division. I think councillors made their views quite clear throughout this process. Yes, Bill?
I appreciate that, but if it's lost, you're withdrawing your position from all the other submissions, and I think the only one disputed was it item 2, item 3 on the passing lane, and that would make more sense to not risk losing all of it when you maybe just want to withdraw your submission on one of them, should it be lost.
Bill, could you just clarify for us, has the time closed for the submissions? Because we make an amendment to the submission at this point?
As I understand it from discussions with the legal team, our options are either to approve it or to withdraw it. So there isn't an option to amend it once it's been submitted.
Through the chair, but you can withdraw just on one of your submissions.
The advice I had from the legal team was that we can't just withdraw one point of the submission and effectively.
Okay, so it's all, you're saying all or nothing.
That's my understanding. Yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So we'll put Councillor Kinnemont.
Can I just have a clarification from you, Bill? So, if it gets withdrawn today, what happens to the submission now then? Do you actually physically write to the NZTA and say our submission is withdrawn, or what's the next steps?
Yeah, through the chair, the process is that we would write to NZTA and withdraw the submission.
Right, so I'm going to put the recommendations. We're going to do it by division.
Councillor Butler.
For.
Councillor Ellis.
For.
Councillor Fernyhough.
For.
Councillor Greening.
Against.
Councillor Gully. Councillor Hume.
Against.
Councillor Kinnemont.
Against.
Councillor Mailing.
For.
Councillor Maru. Sorry, Deputy Mayor Maru. Councillor McNamara.
Against.
Councillor Morgan.
Against.
Councillor Neubauer.
For.
Councillor Walker.
Against.
Councillor Woods.
Against.
7-7.
Is it 7-7?
7-7.
So that is lost.
Yeah.
Okay. Bill, do we need to do a recommendation? We have to withdraw the submission?
Oh no, that would be a follow-up action.
Okay. Very disappointing. Thank you very much, Bill, for all that time and effort and such a wonderful submission. Personally, I'm quite sad to see that we have to withdraw it. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the amendment to the Council's traffic control devices. And we have Mike and Jamie up at the table.
So I'm starting. Yeah, I'm Mike Van Enter, Senior Transportation Engineer, for those of you who haven't met me. I'm happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
Do we have any questions? And looking for a mover and seconder. Councillor McNamara.
I think I'm in the right report still. This is the paid parking.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh, I'm wondering if this is going to cost us more than it's going to recover.
Through the chair, we've put in the report the background and when I guess the council made its substantive decision about the introduction of paid parking, which was part of the annual plan 25-26. The forecast was that in year one, the costs versus the revenue would be about in balance. Well, there is a cost for establishing, but for every subsequent year, there would be a surplus which would help cover the costs of provision for car park maintenance and such things.
Councillor Cunningham.
Willing to, has it been moved?
Not yet.
I wanted to move it, but I've got a question. Are you looking to extend this concept further out of Richmond?
There's no current proposal to do so. The current proposal that was approved as part of the annual plan was signalled in the council's town centre parking strategy, which was signed off in 2018. So it's been quite a while since that, and that strategy is coming due for revision and an update. And I mean that's a matter that the council could consider through that process.
Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. I've got 3 questions, if I may. Question number 1 is actually picking up on where Councillor McNamara left it about the actual cost recovery through paid parking. So in a way, our parking in Richmond operates a bit like a park and ride system where people leave their cars in Richmond and then potentially jump on the bus to go into Nelson. That comes at a bit of a cost because we have to provide a lot of car parking in the middle of town essentially. So my question to you is, does the revenue that we're expecting from this parking cover not only the operating and maintenance cost of that parking, but also the lost opportunity cost, because we can't develop those sites into something that's actually creating revenue for Tasman District Council?
Through the chair, we haven't actually analysed that sort of perspective. It'd be really hard to say. The analysis that was done previous to this really did revolve around cost recovery, you know, making parking more of a user pays scenario, and that was what was consulted on with the public through the annual plan, and that was what had majority support. So yeah, in terms of opportunity cost and how this relates to sort of the bigger picture transportation issues, public transport, park and ride, we don't really have those answers at the moment.
Through the chair, would you suggest that that way of addressing cost is actually a more appropriate way of looking at the cost?
Actually, Jamie, I'm not sure that there's opinion that you can actually give. That's down to a governance decision. So I'm
okay,
happy if you don't answer that.
Probably got something to add. The report here is simply adding the paid parking restriction as a traffic control device to the bylaw, which makes it enforceable, the decision to implement the parking and purchase the parking infrastructure has happened, so the cost has been incurred. So the cost of this decision is to add some quite small signs, which enables some recovery. So a lot of the discussion seems to be about a different decision that's being put forward here.
Completely understand that.
Councillor Walker?
Can I ask my other two questions?
Oh, I thought you'd already asked three. I was ticking them off.
Oh, no,
Carry on.
that was actually just one. So I totally take your point. I'm just wondering whether what we're seeing implemented now hints to a need for a wider review of our parking strategy. That may also include a park and ride facility outside of the town centre. So rather than accommodating everybody in the middle of town, make it a bit more convenient and get traffic out of the town centre. Is it a fair point?
I think Mike's already clarified what we're actually discussing today.
Yeah, this was about the parking strategy and whether we should be looking at that in due course.
You want to have a comment on that, Jamie, about the process for that?
Just quickly, the councillor's questions relate to, I guess, some other planning work that has been done previously. The Richmond Transport Program business case, for example, which did foreshadow future park and rides and various interventions to do with our wider transport system over the next 30 years. So there's a big discussion, and I'll just maybe suggest that we discuss the outcomes of that business case a bit more, and we can discuss that in a different setting.
Fantastic. I'm looking forward to that. And here's my third question. It's also related to this, and that is my concern that introducing paid parking in 3 off-street car parks immediately makes car parks that are free more desirable. So those car parks that are currently free include Sundial Square, where you've got 2 or 3 hours of free parking. So does this mean that inadvertently we are pushing more car parking into Sundial Square, which we're actually trying to keep, as pedestrian oriented as possible?
Yeah, I think we monitor our time restricted parking annually, and how this plays out will be quite key. So there'll be very interesting seeing that parking study.
I'll just add an observation that the users of the parks that have been included in the paid parking are primarily used by staff of town centre businesses who get in early enough to get those prime all-day parks. What we might see is that some people who currently use those parks, who might not be prepared to pay their $4 a day, they might decide to park slightly further out in some of the surrounding streets because they don't want to have the hassle of moving their car if they park in time restricted parking in some of the existing parks. So that might actually free up more parks for more regular turnover, so paying customers will have greater access to these centrally located car parks and find it easier. And the more people that come into town and find it easy to park are going to spend more money, and that's good for business. So I'd anticipate maybe some positives that come out of this as opposed to problems. And I guess that's a bit of a precursor into the benefits of having a demand side solution to the issue of parking. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Walker?
Thank you. Through Madam Chair, I do have a couple of statements and a couple of questions. Ironically, isn't it, that I've just read from Nelson City Council how they're now having to give free parking to try and keep people coming into that area to actually shop locally. At the same time, we're now going to be putting fees on our community. I guess I want to refresh. One of my questions is, can you just refresh my memory on when we agreed to put the technology in to do the traffic control device? Did we have a zone of benefit that we were looking at, and are we extending well and beyond what we originally were talking about? That's one question.
So what was consulted on for the 25-26 annual plan is the same as what's in the current zone, if you like. Yeah.
Okay, so we haven't included any other areas. We've stuck to what we originally proposed. Cool, thanks for clarifying that. I'm really pleased to see Dex Reserve has that 5-minute gap where people can park, because it has been quite challenging in the past when our beautiful community gifts things to our community house, and as they're loading and unloading, they've been issued parking infringements. So I'm really pleased to see that that has been included. So a big thank you from that community. And I guess my other question is, when we go out to do limited timeframes in areas where previously you've been able to park all day, do we actually consult well with those residents? Because I'm very mindful that there's another area within Richmond that we've put parking restrictions on, which has had a huge impact on particular residents who are in 24/7 one-on-one care. So when their caregivers come, they get an hour 20 parking, and then they've got to move on. Where they're going to move on to, I'm limited to answer them now. And because they're providing that 24/7 one-on-one care, they can't just walk out on the client that they're looking after. They're also not allowed to put that client in their own personal vehicle. So we have an impact far and wider than just parking for people to come to shop. So have we been out and consulted with those groups in our community?
Yeah, I mean, you see these updates come through quite regularly, and it is always our practice to consult with adjacent property owners, businesses, residents. So that is standard practice, yes, and that's the expectation of everybody, I think.
And we don't give any exemptions.
Was that a question about exemptions to time
So
restrictions?
if a provider of a facility, a residential facility, do we give them an exemption to say, actually, you have to have staff there, so actually we're not going to ticket you after your 1 hour 20?
No, the only exemptions that we have for time restrictions are for users of mobility parks. They get twice the amount of posted time. So if you're in a section of the car park that is P60 and you have a mobility parking permit, you can park for twice as long. So yeah, once you go down the rabbit hole of exemptions, it gets really tricky, because who decides and where do you draw the line?
But I guess you would appreciate, Jamie, that the caregiver does not qualify for a mobility card. The actual person that they're caring for does, but they don't have a vehicle and will never have a vehicle. Thank you.
So if there's a specific issue that I'm not aware of that we might want to discuss, then maybe we should.
Thank you, Jamie. Councillor Greening.
Thank you. Just a technical point. The mover, has it been seconded?
No, not yet.
So it's lapsed then?
Councillor Neubauer has signalled that he's willing to second it.
Okay. Can I invite the mover to remove paragraph 2.1, which is the paid parking? Failing that, I'll probably foreshadow a motion that removes 2.1. Sorry, I can't hear. No one's got their mic on.
We're just waiting for a response from the mover.
Point of order, Madam Chair. That's part of our annual plan. I don't think you can.
I was just thinking that. I mean, this has already been decided on the annual plan, and this is putting in the mechanism to follow through on that decision.
I don't believe that's correct. This is why it's been brought here. It's a decision. Otherwise, you wouldn't need a decision.
Can I
Councillor-
just clarify what Mike has already, reiterate what Mike already said, that this decision here today for this committee is simply to add that to the bylaw schedule. It cannot override a previous decision of the council. So they're different things. The only thing that would happen if the committee didn't pass this resolution today is that the council would not be able to defend in court the charges that it's already told its community it will charge them.
Well, we haven't started charging for these new areas yet, though, so you don't have that problem.
Mr. Smith.
So can I just get clarification? Has the mover withdrawn 2.1, or is he still?
No, he
moving
has
it?
not.
Okay, then I foreshadow. Oh, sorry. No, go, Mike. You want to speak? Go for it.
Kia ora. At the risk of overstepping my mandate and making a meal, remember this went to the annual plan. We consulted with our community. We made a decision as council, or you made a decision as elected members of council, to proceed to this exact path that Mike is asking you, not to negotiate these issues, but to actually support the resolution to make them actually happen. The learning for staff is, when we did that through the annual plan, we probably should have made a resolution of council to do this at the same time. I think we have to be really careful that we don't take every opportunity to rehash a decision that you've made out of context on what you're making the decision. From my expectation, if you decided to relitigate this decision, you're going to have to go back to the community. Do you really want to do that halfway through the present year when you're actually starting the whole annual plan? It just seems to me, and I know I'm overstepping my mark, that you're starting to get into a process where you're essentially second guessing the decisions that you yourselves have made and have told the community that you're doing. This is about letting staff do their job. Remember, it's not just painting lines. We've agreed through the annual plan we're going to start our parking enforcement, which is another whole team. We're buying the technology to do that. We're actually already committed to this path. I really ask you respectfully to follow good governance and follow your decisions through on what you decided with the community. Apologies.
So
Thank
through
you,
the
Mr.
chair,
Smith.
through the chair, in response, that was a previous council's annual plan. This is our first annual plan.
And we're still
consulting on
working
now.
through that process.
Yes,
I
right.
have another question.
So can I continue, because I have some questions and some statements to make.
Could
I was
you
just doing some
please get
technical,
on with questions,
questions.
please, and make
Yes,
sense
yes. So,
quickly?
so I am opposed to the extension of paid parking. It certainly wasn't unanimous around the previous council's annual plan, and there should be the opportunity for this council to revisit those decisions. The logic of the paid parking, other than a revenue grab, doesn't make any sense. It pushes parking out. The argument is made that staff businesses get in first, but they're going to take those parks anyway or be moved out. So, and then someone will pay anyway. We're supposed to be supporting local businesses. You already heard that Nelson is slowly doing a U-turn because it's killing off its local businesses, and everyone's going to big box because there's free parking. This makes no sense. What we should be doing is actually parking this paid parking, which effectively is by not supporting this, you're putting a line in the sand. We're not going to progress this any further. We'll go through an annual plan process. We'll revisit the strategy. The strategy itself needs to be revisited, because what we should be doing is encouraging businesses to park in a park and ride area rather than charging in the central business area, which is going to negatively affect businesses and upset the public. We already got that feedback in the previous annual plan because I was part of it. I know that a number of councillors here who weren't. That's what should be happening. So while I accept that, yes, that was the previous strategy, this council can decide, no, we're pausing that, we're stopping that now. I certainly am voting against it. I don't see it in any way, it's not a logical plan. Voting against it just means that they can't regulate it, which means we can't enforce it, which means we don't do it. And then we can address the strategy through the annual plan process, which we're coming through, if we can do it, and through the long-term plan process. This is what should happen. So I'm putting a stop to the paid parking rollout. This decision requires you to authorise it, otherwise they legally can't charge for it, which prevents them from rolling it out any further. So that's what I'm doing.
Right,
and
thank you.
ideally, this should have come through the annual plan process more clearly, the one we're consulting on, and it hasn't. Instead, it's slipped to the side of it, which I think is
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry you
an
missed that
opportunity
because it was
missed.
all pretty clear at the time, Councillor Greening. Right, we need to move on. Councillor Morgan?
I accept the comment that the previous council have made the decision, and we're really just determining, implementing it, and revenue being collected. Can I just have from management clarity on what the strategy is for parking, putting aside the individual? What is our approach? Because I'm not clear on it.
Through the chair, we have a document called the Richmond and Motueka Town Centre Parking Strategy. There's a lot in there, so it's quite hard to summarise, but the overall approach to our town centre parking is to have the close central parking areas available for customers to come in, and for people who want to park all day to go further out. But there is also this particular carve out in the strategy for some centrally located all-day parks to exist, and for people to pay for the privilege of using those, and for that revenue to be reinvested back into the cost of maintaining those car parks, because they're not free. There is no such thing as free parking. So yeah, so it's moving towards a cost recovery model, which is what our ratepayers have said they want.
Thank you.
Right, thank you, Jamie. Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you very much. I think I just need to make my position clear a little bit here. I agree that the parking strategy is a great start, and I also agree that we need to revisit it, because I actually think that we can do even better to achieve a more pedestrian focus off Queen Street and the surrounding streets. And to achieve that, I think the parking strategy is actually a really key part to do that. And the other reason why we should be revisiting that at some point is because it's actually occupying some really valuable land that we might want to use more efficiently. So while I agree that the parking strategy itself should be reviewed in due course, I don't think that this is the place to do it. So I'm absolutely supporting this.
Right, if that's it, I'll go back to Councillor Kinnamonth for his right of reply.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. It's always very interesting to come to work in here. I'm not in favour of changing the resolution. I've agreed to the motion on the condition that the 3 parks are currently all-day parking, first in, first served. Once you're in there, good luck. You're there for the day. Where what we're trying to achieve now is more efficient use of this valuable piece of land. So I will not change the motion.
Thank you. So I'd like to put the motion, noting that Councillor Greening has foreshadowed. So all those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against?
Against.
Thank you, noted.
Yes, please.
I'd like that noted. Did you get that? Oh!
Mic on, please. Can't hear.
Sorry, we have until 10 past. Please very quickly be back on time because I'll be starting it. have the Motueka Heritage Wharf registration budget. We have David speaking to this report. So take it away.
Morning, councillors. I will largely take the report as read, but I will kind of give a few highlights in the incredible work that the Keep Motueka Beautiful organization has been doing over the past couple of years. Some of you might recall when I was here about a year ago, asking for a similar sort of budget, but it was a lot less certain at that point. We were asking for anywhere between $25,000 to $200,000 at the time. There were some fundraising opportunities that were in play and hadn't come back yet. And council at the time, wisely decided, go do a little bit more work, look at a business case, wait for this funding to come in, and then we'll see. So in March, they did finally get confirmation that the Heritage Lotteries was mostly successful. They'd asked for 200 and they got 150. But where we're sitting right now is that this Heritage Wharf Restoration Group has raised close to $300,000 for the restoration of this heritage structure. Incredible amount of community support and personal, volunteer energy that's gone into it. And there is a legitimate reason why council needs to do at least some work on this. Part of this whole process has identified that this is likely council structure. Through all the common law and reasons that these old derelict things are assigned ownership, it's ours. That only came to light about a year or two ago. And now that that is to light, we do have a health and safety obligation to at least make it safe. So you might recall a couple of years ago, we did put up a fence along the end of it. It was not very popular and the fence was taken down. Something like that will need to go back up, either a fence or signs or something. There is an unavoidable obligation, at least to a certain level here, to address that health and safety consideration. In my opinion, taking advantage of this amazing opportunity that the community has realized for us, raising again almost $300,000 with an additional $25,000 capital budget, and emphasis on the capital budget. It's not an operational budget we're looking for. It's a restoration of that actual physical asset capitalized. Minor impact to rates. It's a once in a kind of lifetime opportunity that we really should take advantage of, in my opinion. A lot of these fundraising opportunities that have been realized are time limited. If we can't carry out the project, give them back, and we're still left with an unsafe asset that needs something done with it. So the organization has prepared the business case. We are actually phasing the work. We're not asking for the full amount of money that we would ideally like, because that can be phased out in asset maintenance over future years. This is the core amount of work that we need to make the structure safe and back into a good condition. So other than that, I will just take the report as read. And if there's any questions or clarifications that are needed on the amount of the budget or why or when or how, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Neubauer.
Thank you, Mrs. Chair. Yeah, thanks for the
He's
report.
fine, actually.
What's that?
Chair is fine.
Chair. Okay. Fine. Just wondering, can you explain to us what is the purpose of this wharf?
The wharf was the old Motueka Wharf. So that was where the apple industry got started. It was quickly replaced by the current port about 40 or 50 years afterwards. But right now it's a heritage structure. It's a derelict heritage structure. It's the only wharf of its kind in the country made out of these granite blocks. So it's a cultural, historic feature.
Understood. Did I read that correctly in the report that there is an option to make the wharf 5 meters shorter, and that would pretty much be covered by the funds that are already raised?
With caveats, in that theoretically, if everything goes to plan, it would. But it's not guaranteed that we would get archaeological approval to do that, or like the heritage approval to do that. They have accepted that we would use fake stone, so concrete with a granite sort of veneer rather than original authentic granite, because that quarry doesn't exist anymore, which is a cost-saving measure. but it is not clear actually that they would accept a shortening of that structure as well. And it introduces several other risks in that it could be quite contaminated, that material. Has been some coal tar found in various areas. That could be a significant cost increase. And it would introduce another layer of resource consenting that is not currently incurred by just replacing the wharf where it is right now. It's increased disturbance of the seabed and various other things that would potentially lead to more costs or potentially lead to an undeliverable project. So it's riskier. So even though it is a little bit less expensive on paper, it introduces a lot of risk that could end up actually costing more or delaying the project entirely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maru. Oh, Deputy Mayor Maru. It's terribly sorry.
Thank you, Chair. So, David, are you aware of the submission that's this trust has made in terms of the annual plan for council and an application they currently have in front of NZCT?
I was aware of the submission, but I haven't yet been able to review it in much detail.
Right. So my understanding is there's an application in the vicinity of $50,000 towards these costs, currently sitting with a funder. And there's been some dialogue around the community board, not support or indication of whether out of the special projects fund that sits. So I guess not preempting anything or anything, this has a level of significance for Motueka. I have some nervousness around it being funded from general council funds. So my question to you is, what fund do we have currently that would fund this, or is this new spend outside of any budgets that we have?
It would be new spend outside of any budgets. The coastal activity itself is quite small and perhaps under appreciated, I suppose. We have a number of these older structures, and to be fair, we didn't even know the Motueka Heritage Wharf was our responsibility until a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And
thank you for taking that horrible Mr. Kirby fence down. I absolutely commend the work that you've been part of, the group that's driving this, the money they've raised. I'm not convinced that they're fully untapped on external funding to cover that cost yet. And I'm also not convinced that perhaps if it's a $25,000 grant that the Motueka Community Board couldn't be persuaded to be the last funder in that level. So that's just me personally. So I, as much as it grinds me, won't support the capital spend for this project, but we'll do everything I can to help find it.
Thank you. Councillor Greening.
Yeah, I just wanted to get a line on where the capital funding has come from, or will come from. What budget line is it coming from, and is it possible to fund it through grants or out of the Motueka RFC?
generally, coastal structures are funded out of just a general rate. We do have a couple specific targeted rates, like for the Mapua seawall, there's some Torrent Bay sand replenishment, for example. But outside of that, it would come from just the general rate, capital pool. And as for the RFC question, that is a good question. It's a heritage structure, primarily for recreational benefit. But I have no idea about the actual regulations around the use of RFCs, so I would need to phone a friend if anyone knows.
So I think it would be useful if there is some direction that support of the 25K is coming from RFCs or through grants, because I would have thought the grants still has some funding it can allocate, and that grants could allocate it.
And another important thing to clarify as well is that this project would be run through our project delivery office as a council project, since it's a council asset, with the proper procurement and project management procedures.
So can I get confirmation where the 25K is going to come from then? Or is it left open to explore? I'm uncertain what the response has been.
Right now, the proposal would be that it would just come from general rates.
Right. So do we need to change the resolution to direct it from a different source?
Okay, can we get some information from Mr. Ridd, please?
I can only talk about community grants. So I know the Motueka board had a brief discussion, which the Deputy Mayor alluded to there. So that would have to go back to the community board to determine whether or not they wish to support it. There was I got a feeling in the room there would be an appetite for some conversation around it. So in terms of this item, it's purely, I think you're requesting unbudgeted expenditure here, aren't you, David?
So did you say emergency expenditure?
No, unbudgeted expenditure.
Unbudgeted
So the
capital
current.
expenditure, yeah.
So what you need to do is resolve on this either way. If you decide to fund it and want to push it somewhere else, then officers will go away and do that piece of work.
And just to clarify as well, because of the health and safety considerations, there are some unbudgeted things that you can't really avoid spending, and health and safety things like this, we would need to make it safe in some fashion. And so that would require at least some expenditure. Don't know exactly how much, but in terms of the overall rate burden of a $25,000 debt funded capital spend, it's probably about the same.
Okay.
Yeah, so can I have some directions then on whether the motion needs to be modified to direct it towards grants or RFCs as the source of the funding? And has it been moved yet?
You do have a resolution on the table at the moment, which I'm picking. You'll need to. Okay.
Or we haven't got a mover or anything yet. Any more questions, Councillor Greening?
So I'm just waiting to see what the resolution worded is on screen.
Okay, so in the meantime, we've got some more questions. Councillor Walker?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Oh, Chair. This is a long process and a journey that Motueka has been through. I don't support today in the fact that the timing of it, when there are submissions for the annual plan, and I'm wondering why it's sitting on this table now when we're not actually going through it when the submissions come through. First question. Second one is how we communicated when we put the last fence up created this massive groundswell of objections. I personally don't believe we did a good job, A, with what we constructed, or B, how we didn't communicate with our community. Just overnight this structure appeared. Here's one of my other, I have concerns about, when we read our flood mapping and we look at trying to mitigate and work through the climate situation that council keep reminding us about, and we look at what the east side of Motueka looks like and what we can and can't do with our housing, I kind of go, we'll be creating a structure that's going to be a structure standing on its own, because the forecast is that the east side of Mott ain't going to be there, and that may be in 50 years' time. So I do question about the resourcing that we're putting into said wharf. I'd like all the councillors to be aware that the Community Board has been in behind this project. They've had a discretionary fund. They've also had 10K, which I try to ask to be put in as bricks and mortar as opposed to report writing. So the Community Board has invested in this project already, and I don't see that that's stated anywhere unless I've not read the report correctly. We're asking for 25K, but yet through the three you'll see in the report that there's another 60K. I'm wondering why we're asking for 25 when actually we know in the report there's more money still required. And as the Deputy Mayor has already said, I'm not convinced that there isn't wider funding in our wider community that won't cover this. And I hear what you say, it's only a minor impact, this little bit of money. But all these little bit of monies for all these projects that keep coming before us become real big monies for our ratepayers. So I'm sitting here a little bit conflicted of A, the timing of why it's here today and not waiting for the annual plan submissions to come through when we know Community Board have submitted one. And I also question around why the 25 when clearly in the report there's still more money. And my other question is, who the heck is going to fund the fence? Because in the bottom of the report, we still talk about our fence. And have I lost where I am with the funding application and the business plan on who funds the fence? Because I tell you what, it cannot be the like of what we had, and I'm not going to name the fence. However, our community didn't want that fence.
I think I can answer all of those questions, Councillor. Yes, this project seems to be cursed with poor timing between last year and this year. So ideally, we would have known about the Heritage Lottery's result much sooner than we did. I was not comfortable coming back to council saying I need somewhere between $25,000 and $250,000 because that's just a flat, no, we can't entertain that. So it was resolved in March. In terms of getting it in front of council then, that's really on me, simply because of my own limitations of resourcing to be able to get everything, together. And we're still working through a few, arrangements with the money because it's a council asset and a council project. We're not just sort of able to allow Keep Motueka Beautiful just to run all of this stuff. It needs to be there needs to be agreements and contracts set up so that we have oversight of those funds as well, and we can properly execute the project. As for the fence, if we fix the wharf, we don't necessarily need the fence. It still will be just a wharf that you can follow up, but the problem is right now is that it's full of holes and loose rocks, and if you step on the wrong part of the wharf, it could suddenly, tumble you in, and that has happened on several occasions that I'm aware of. Which is why the fence was put up to just completely prevent access. There are other alternatives, more aesthetic fences, signage, stuff like that, but the risk remains. And at the time that the original fencing was put in, it was not 100% confirmed that it was actually our asset. It was a area that was accessible to the public, and I think as a in our role as council, we decided, well, we should probably stop people from walking off the end of this thing. But now it is actually something we should be taken care of.
Right, thank you. I still have councillors Fernyhough, Morgan and McNamara. Councillor Fernyhough.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, David. Thanks for the report. I think similar to Councillor Walker, I struggle a little bit with this and the idea of how much money is going into repair a coastal asset when we have a lot of other projects that could probably use close to $500,000 of funding. My questions pertain to the toxic coal tar. I know when Councillor Neubauer asked a question about shortening the wharf, which is also something I would be interested in exploring, especially if there's cost savings. One of the arguments in there is that there are these toxic materials. I'm wondering if there are toxic materials there, should they not be removed so that they're not ultimately leaching into our seafront? That's one of my questions. And then in that conversation, it was brought up that maybe we won't have approval from the Heritage Society, but if it's our asset and we're responsible for it, I'm struggling to understand that. So that's my first question.
Can answer those, and I realized I didn't answer one of Councillor Walker's questions about the difference in the amount of funding that's being requested. And so I might, before I do that as well, just answer that the additional money is for repointing of the rest of the wharf, which can be delayed. It's not necessarily mission critical to restore it into a safe condition. So this is a sort of compromised request to get the immediate work done now. You mentioned about using the budget for potentially other things, and the money that has been raised by the Heritage Wharf Restoration Group is only usable for this. They've raised it specifically for that purpose from various other sources. So if we don't use it on this for this, it just goes away, which is, it is what it is. I've lost my train of thought. I'm sorry, Councillor. What was your next question after that? Right. So there is coal tar there. It's relatively immobile. You don't have to move it if you keep it on site and you cap it. The fact that it's exposed now through the broken rock and that kind of stuff, it is more at risk of mobilizing it. So fixing the wharf, restoring that kind of veneer with the rock and leaving it in place is a completely acceptable method of controlling that. For now, Otherwise, to shorten the wharf and then actually take that fill off site, it just you'd have to take it to a special facility at very, very high prices. And the question about the Archaeological Authority, the Heritage Authority, is that it is actually a designated heritage structure. So regardless of whether it's ours or not, there are still approvals and things that we would need to do to be able to change it. I guess we could risk the wrath of Heritage New Zealand, and maybe it's not that bad. We always have to debate just how much we comply with the bevy of legislation, regulations, and rules and everything that we do. But there's not that many heritage structures out there, and this wharf in particular is unique in its construction in New Zealand.
Thanks for that. I'm also happy to second, but I do have one follow-up question.
We have a mover yet.
I'm happy to move. I do have another follow-up question, and that you touched on it a little bit. The 25,000 capital expenditure that is being requested, there's, these kind of vague mentions of maybe further down the road we'll come for more money to fix the pointing. I'm wondering what the ongoing operational costs are to this wharf and if that will be changing with any of the restoration we do. And then when and how much will be requested at a later date.
The repointing itself, I believe, was costed at around $40,000, $50,000, $60,000, something like that. It hasn't been touched in the 140 years or something that it's been intact. I don't see it being an immediate thing, and it could be done in phases over time. There is a lot of expenditure that is not currently known or budgeted for in the coastal activity, so that'll have to be part of this whole LTP process that we go through with that particular activity itself. So yes, there would be some ongoing operational costs. I'm fairly certain that our reserves team already carry out at least some minor maintenance of it, mowing the grass, that kind of thing, and they would continue to do so. But other than that, in terms of physical works, it could be another 140 years before we need to do much of anything. And by that point, as Councillor Walker noted, Eastern Motueka will be underwater and the wharf will be an island. So perhaps it won't be an issue.
Okay, thank you. Next on the list, we have Councillor Morgan.
Thank you for your report. I was reflecting on the purpose, and my reflection was I enjoy fishing there at 1 o'clock in the morning on an incoming tide. So having put that background to your paper, your advice is that TDC legally owns the wharf. Is that correct?
Yeah, so when we set out on this whole journey, we did retain people who know about these things, property, consultants, lawyers, stuff like that. And it's complicated. It's not just TRMP stuff. It's common law and whatever of how these coastal structures that stick out into the coastal marine area, how they're owned, and the base of it is located within a council road reserve. So actually, it's probably Jamie's wharf. If you really want to get down to it.
Yeah. So I've heard what you said.
Yeah.
So there's no chance that we could abandon our ownership.
There are a number of structures, these old sort of derelict coastal structures around the region, like Collingwood. There's an old sort of jetty along the river there. There's the Milnthorpe Wharf that actually Dock has formally said they own, and they've just completely fenced it off. The Waitapu Wharf, Takaka, little bits of it are owned by Linz or the Crown. It's a hot potato. Nobody will ever say that, oh yeah, no, I'll take care of that. But so, we this is it's all signs point to it's a council asset.
So my next question was that it's a heritage asset.
Yes.
And as governors, we have obligations under those provisions.
Yes.
You've said that we haven't spent a lot on maintenance over 100 and something years.
We didn't even know it was ours until a couple of years ago, so we would have spent nothing.
Yeah, okay, I hear what you're saying in terms of what we don't know what we own. My next question was, from a governance point of view, and you've noted in your report the issue of health and safety. From my perspective, I have concerns about allowing access to a council-owned asset that's a potential health risk.
Absolutely.
So, and I have seen it's been fenced off. Is that still the current situation?
No, it's no longer fenced off.
Well, I suppose my next question is how long are we prepared to have the public exposed to a risk, and we're not actually managing that situation? It's sort of a situation where we can't hide from my perspective. So I'll leave it at that.
The last time I faced this issue was with the now removed Best Island jetty, which was a much, much smaller structure, but eventually we just removed it. This is a much, much, much different structure. Obviously that one...
It's not that easy to remove.
You poked it and the whole thing fell over. This one would be a little bit more work.
We don't have a seconder.
Right, sorry about that. Thank you, Councillor Morgan. Councillor McNamara.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, it greatly concerns me that we have to fence off a pile of rocks, essentially, given that the coastline is inherently dangerous. Are we going to fence it all off? Or where does it start and stop? You said it has a lot of community support, but then in the funding, which well done to them for raising so much money, but they've done it 100% through grants, although Councillor Walker says that may not be the case, but that's what I've been presented with. Whereas that doesn't show a lot of community support. Any other facilities that we want to construct or what have you, we've got to have community fund support as opposed to grant funding. Anyway, that all said, I'm not a Motueka person, so I'm happy to take my lead from the majority of the Motueka councillors, and we'll go with them.
Thank you. Councillor Melling, did you want to speak? I saw you signal earlier.
Yeah, I just think the community has gathered some money through grants or whatever. It's a lot less imposition on us, and it is our asset. So to me, it makes sense. So if you haven't got a seconder, I'm happy to second the motion, and I'm sure the community board will assist in the future. Maybe with the pointing, if that needs to be done.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Maru.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I'm a bit worried, Councillor McNamara, if you're going to take your lead from me, but that's okay. I'd like to move an amendment if I can, Madam Chair. And so point number 1 as it is, and point number 2 is agrees to consider the recommendation as part of the annual plan process. So I have just sent a text to the funders, and it is in Wellington being considered. So I actually believe that they'll fund this without having to come to council. But in fairness to the group, they've submitted to the annual plan. It's in the submissions that we will see on Thursday. And so in fairness, I'm happy, that's my motion, is to move receipt of it and to consider it as part of the annual plan process.
Well, I think we need to get the agreement of the mover and the seconder for that. Can I please get some... I did want to get some clarity from staff. Are we actually able to do that? Because we've put out the annual plan for consultation. We're hearing submissions on it now. Can we actually do that in this process?
You need to go through the annual plan process.
What they're saying is deal with in the annual plan.
So
Well,
just
you
pretend
make it-
all of this never happened.
Wait,
We'll
sorry,
come back and
Chair.
plan submissions.
Chair,
Yes.
you've got hearings and deliberations coming up. You'll need to deal with it through that process. You can't preempt that process.
So I put this amendment.
Through the chair, as advised, you're in the process of the hearings and the deliberations at the moment. And was it that there is an application from the already in there? You could just receive the report. You could receive it and acknowledge that you will revisit it after the annual plan deliberations. And yes, there is one other requested amendment that has been sent through, and I believe there's another one as well.
This amendment, if it goes through.
Through the chair, perhaps Deputy Maru might change that to request that it be considered following, that it be revisited following
Happy
the
to,
annual
Madam Chair.
plan.
Happy to.
Okay.
We have mic on, please. We can't hear anything here.
Oh, we're just trying to work out the process, Mark. There's amendments all over the shop.
Yeah, I'm still waiting to see it on screen. Yeah.
Can we see it on Councillor Deputy Mayor Maru's proposition on the screen, please?
So through the chair, maybe just acknowledge that there has been submissions to the annual plan for the Matawaika Historical Wharf. I think there's two from memory, one from the community board and one from the group.
Right, so do we have the agreement of the original mover and seconder?
Can we please have it shared on screen, please?
Oh, we could. Sorry, Mark, we
For
can
those
see it on the
people who are coming
screens
in
here, so we
remotely,
assumed you could see
including
it.
the public, they probably want to benefit from reading it. Thank you.
Right, can you see it, Councillor Greening?
I can. I just have a question around why we would be considering it following the annual plan if a submission has been made in the annual plan. Doesn't that give us the opportunity to consider it then?
Yeah, I think that's the actual point of why this has been made, so that it can be considered through the annual plan process.
Yes, I don't understand why it's following the annual plan deliberations. I would have thought it would be part of them. And secondly, I still think we need to indicate where we would be funding it from. It's still open. Admittedly, that's
what we can cover as part of the deliberations, I think, Mark.
so. Can we get staff to maybe come back to us then on the feasibility of it being funded through the RFCs and/or community grants, which is what my suggested amendment was going to be to the original motion. That can be minuted as a direction.
Yep, they're doing that now.
So are we following, or is it part of?
Through the chair, I understood that because that we are in the process of the annual plan, the hearings that are going forward, where there are 2 applications going to the hearing and the deliberations. You want to understand what funding you can apply then. Following that, if there is funding still needed, staff can bring this back. So it can't be considered as this request can't be considered as part of the deliberations. The applications to the annual plan can be considered as part of the deliberations.
Yeah, but look, we've got the note. we hear that you want to see how you fund it. We'll bring that as part of the information back to deliberations. So we've made a note of that, if that helps.
So do we have the correct wording, or is there a better wording that allows for the conversation that's gone on in the room and online?
Through the chair, if I could just speak to the amendment, I'm happy with the words there after the explanation, because this is a separate topic to the submission to the annual plan. So we will discuss the submissions in the annual plan deliberations through that. That may get addressed there. This closes the loop going. If it isn't addressed there, staff can bring the report back. But it essentially gives us the same period of time to understand if there's other funding, either through an external funder and or community board. But it can't override the submissions to the current annual plan process, which we'll talk about there. So I'm happy to move that.
Have we got all the paperwork done? Okay, so I'd like to put the motion as it is on the screen. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, David.
Please accept my sincere apologies for what just happened. No, just technicality work. On to the next report.
Good work. Sorry? Okay, so now we need to move the substantive motion. I've lost track of who's moving and seconding. Can you please refresh? So that's Kieran and Councillor Mailing. So
Apologies. The amended motion becomes a substantive motion moved by Deputy Mayor Maru and Councillor Walker. So you just need to now put it.
So I will put this motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you.
I'm still up next.
Are you up next?
I am. You'll be happy to know there are no decisions in this report. So the next report, councillors and chair, is just a general update on the Rivers and Coastal Structures activity. This was intended to be sort of a 2 or 3 times a year. It's been a bit hectic since about this time last year. So this is the first time we've been able to come to council with a general update on rivers and coasts since the floods. So it's really just an opportunity as well to give admittedly a very high level overview of everything that's going on, and an opportunity for anyone to ask questions about what's going on or get a sort of read on what might be coming up in the long-term plan, for example, and directions that you might want to see. So generally we'll take the report as read. It covers a lot of different topics, again at a very high level. But if you'd like a bit of a deeper dive on anything, or if there's any particular questions.
Okay, thank you, David. Oh, goodness me, look at that list. We'll start with Councillor McNamara.
Thank you for the report. Just a question on River Z. So we have decided it's too expensive to carry on with funding the cost share. I'm just a bit concerned about the process there, given that people have been paying into this scheme, and now all of a sudden we've said no, we can't proceed down that path without any public consultation or council decisions effectively.
I can provide a bit of context about it ties into the purpose of the rating system as a whole, which covers the River X, River Y, and River Z areas. The River X and Y are the areas that we provide a level of service, either stop banks or river works along our major rivers. Every other property in the district pays a River Z rate at the same rate, whether they're next to a river or not. The intention of the River Z rate is as the general regional subsidization of river management work on the major rivers. And the reason why it's such a high proportion compared to other regional councils dates back to, again, catchment board days, where they engaged in quite a lot more land management work as well. I mean, that's the reason we have forest on all of our hills and not pasture. It's the reason why there's so much orchard in the Moutere, for example. It was a very intentional activity by the catchment board at the time to find more sustainable land use practices. So the regional benefit, the benefit for Tasman as a whole of carrying out those activities is sufficiently high that's why that River Z was set at 50% of the total budget. There is no level of service, river management level of service, associated with River Z. The subsidy program that was put in place post-dates the creation of the rating system. And it was to recognize, that there are other rivers out there. It mirrors what was called like the Isolated Works grant program that the Catchment Board used to run. Mind you, that's when they actually had access to central government funding through Ministry of Works and other kind of things like that. So largely it was facilitating delivery of, central government money to people who would put their own money up. So it's not necessarily a formal policy, and it's certainly not the intention of the targeted rate. And with the extent of damage that happened against our budget, it would be oversubscribed by multiple times, and very difficult to prioritize, and frankly, not the best use of money. It's very localized benefit for specific landowners up to a certain allowance. There's also a growing awareness on our end, is that we incur quite a lot of contractual responsibilities when we carry out that work, and we contribute money to that. We already incur a lot of consenting responsibility for this work because all the work is delivered under our global resource consent. And that is something that we need to be much more conscious of before we allow the proliferation of rock walls under our consent everywhere else, regardless of who's paying for them. So it's a combination of our emerging maturity as an activity, understanding the full ramifications of what we're doing, understanding that these floods, as monumental as they were, has shown us that our current sort of financing system for rivers is not quite right. And that's something that I'll be pursuing through this long-term plan process with you in more detail.
Thank you. I guess my concern is that it's a decision made outside of a consultative process. And the second question you just raised for me, does that mean that not only are we not funding 50% of the work people are doing, we're now going to withdraw from using our global consent? They'll have to get their own consent?
No, not at all. So what we're looking at right now is a way to continue to enable that work to happen easily under our consent with our supervision without having also incurring that contractual like PCBU relationship of paying for it. So we had been going down the road with our legal team of coming up with sort of a multi-party agreement to address that. But when the floods hit, that sort of got parked, and we're focused now on making sure that we're enabling people to do work without them needing to get their own resource consent. And that requires oversight and input from the Rivers team. There's absolutely value there in terms of even just the consent application fee and the professional services that they would need to recruit to get through that process is enormously valuable. We're just making sure that, again, we're not exposing council to a lot more risk in the future in terms of being responsible for the effects of these rock walls, for example, that go in perpetuity. And if something wrong, something happens to a neighboring property, that's actually not the asset owner's problem. That's our problem. So we need to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's before we engage in that too much.
Thank you. And a final follow-up through the chair. Does that mean I can expect my Rivers rate to start going down if we're not funding so much work?
And that's the first clarification was the fact that the Rivers Ed rate is a subsidy for our major river works. There's no level of service attached to that. I mean, I live in Richmond and over on William Street, and I pay a Rivers Ed rate, and I hope to God that I'd never have a river going through my property. But that is a communications issue. It has not been very well understood or explained what these rates are actually about. And again, that's part of going into this LTP. XYZ, we need to call them something more meaningful and actually nail down the levels of service that we provide in each of these areas.
Thank you. Councillor Gully?
Thank you, through the chair. No surprises, David, but the Murchison community are asking questions of me, which I'll pass on to you. Yes. And no surprises again. The areas of concern is the highway just south of the Longford Bridge that we nearly got really smashed, as you know. Mm-hmm. And then further down to the golf course, and you've got photos and clips of that. In the cemetery, they're most concerned about it, and they're most concerned that because they're not in a managed river, we're going to wait for the next big event and potentially lose some of the campground or the cemetery or the state highway.
Yeah, absolutely. I have recent correspondence from from Felix about that. The highway is an NZTA asset. They carry out rock protection works along the long sweeping bend on the way into Murchison. So that's not something that we have to do necessarily. They do regularly take care of that. I know they have taken care of some post-flood damage there, but they will sweat it as long as they can until the road's falling in. The golf course and campground are an interesting issue in that the land is actually Department of Conservation land that we lease or otherwise use and operate the golf course and campground on. It's a bit of a funny issue in just how much we would invest in land that we don't actually own, but a service. So that would I'll have to talk with the probably the reserves team in terms of who operates that, what our tolerance there is. The cemetery is behind the campground. So we'd have to lose the campground before we lose the cemetery. And the cemetery is council land. So there's always, just because it's an unmanaged river, we're not going to let the Buller River go through the cemetery. Plain and simple. There will be, interventions before that point. It's just whether we systemize it, that whole stretch of the Buller River through Murchison, and that will be part of a rating review that have just kicked off as well. Where do we rate? What services we provide where? We need a good, big, comprehensive update on that because we really haven't looked at that since the Catchment Board set up their original system.
Yeah, understand the workload that you've had as well, and given that it's a 100-year event, but the Murchison people are saying, well, what's it going to take? They've been pretty patient and pretty well behaved, but John Ridd's coming down with me in a few weeks for not a public meeting, but a talk to the community, and I bet you dollars to donuts, the first thing they'll be asking is, what are you doing about the river?
I delivered a presentation to the MDCC and the Community Association last August, and that basically spelled out the options of, it's an unmanaged river, there's no level of service, so an option is to create a rating area around there. But the way our rating system is set up is it's all one big pool. So bringing Murchison and the Buller River on board is a matter of interest for all river ratepayers because everybody shares the costs, which complicates the issue. It's a small population base or a very large river. That's a bad combination. Yeah. So this is why we need a comprehensive overview of the whole system, because there could be other options, for example, that we ring fence certain areas, or we have a different subsidy approach, or infinite number of possibilities here, but we need to make sure we're being fair to everybody who's responsible for paying for river management, which is everybody.
Right, so my last question, you're a very reasonable person to work with, very calm under pressure, as you were in those meetings we had 6 months ago.
Yeah.
But when are we going to see some action?
In Murchison?
Yeah.
It depends on how aggressively, again, the river affects those particular council assets, again, on land that we don't own, which gets complicated. Ideally, the Department of Conservation would protect these lands, in partnership with us, but I don't give that a high likelihood of passing that test. The rating review is starting. I want to be at least some initial proposals put for you for the LTP process. Not a wholesale change, but a roadmap of, here's how we can step through and improve how we're delivering this service so that it's fair and people know exactly what we're getting, everyone's happy, or at least equally disgruntled with the level of service that we're providing, but it's clear. And that's the one thing that hasn't been very well understood is exactly what we do on the rivers. We've been relatively blessed the past couple of, few decades of not having 100-year storms or 50-year storms. So you can weather a lot of inefficiencies and without having those stress tests, but now we've been stressed past the limit and we need a good overhaul.
Right, thank you. Right, I have got a long list of councillors with questions and I don't want to stop anybody from speaking, but I will ask, could you please have a think about the questions that you're going to ask, keep them very short. We still have another extensive report and a confidential item to come. So if there is anything in your question that can be covered up by an email or could be part of a general conversation in a Rivers workshop as part of the LTP, could you please, that might be the most appropriate place for a discussion. I'm very conscious of time. We only have until 12:30, I think, in the schedule. So I have Councillor Kinnemouth, Maru, Fernyhough, Butler, Neubauer, Woods and Walker.
Strike me up.
And Greening.
Take you
and
out.
Greening.
Oh, and Greening must do as well. So please bearing in mind that we will be having a workshop as part of the LTP, and that's probably a really good spot for discussions. If you have a very quick question that's pertinent to the report. So next on the list is Councillor Kinnemouth.
Gravel extraction from the rivers.
Oh, no, hang on. You've way down the list. I'd already done a big long list. Councillor Kinnemouth.
Through you, Madam Chair, I withdraw my question.
Thank you. Next is Deputy Mayor Maru.
Thank you, through the chair. Just 3.10, David, and it can be follow-up offline, but what's happening in terms of Brooklyn Walker areas, because that paragraph confuses me that we haven't specifically identified. I thought we had. Thank you. So maybe you don't need to answer, but the three councillors quite interested.
I'll follow up with you all afterwards.
Thank you. Councillor Fernyhough.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Mayor Maru just covered my exact question.
Thank you. Councillor Butler has withdrawn. Councillor Neubauer, you've withdrawn as well. Thank you. Oh gosh, you're very responsible people. Councillor Woods.
Thank you very much through the chair. Just a quick question which can be answered offline, but TDC's relationship with willows along the riverbanks as a stabilising tool. During the community feedback after the floods, there was some concern around crack willow as a pest being eradicated, and we are now using willows to re-stabilise, which I think is a good thing. But if we can just, during the workshop, just confirm our relationship with the willow species.
Absolutely. It's complicated.
Maybe good best covered in the workshop.
Not
Okay,
Sedona.
Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. Just a quick question around, when we go out and we front our communities, and I've just heard from Councillor Gully that you're going out his neighbourhood. You've been in our neighbourhood. When we go out and we talk the talk, it's really hard as councillors when we don't actually implement walking the talk. Huge kudos for what you're doing when you front those conversations, but we need to see the mahi now. So thank you for agreeing to meet us three. But I am really concerned about when we say we're going out to do something, how do we resource that?
You want a quick answer to that?
With difficulty.
Looks like we've got some big conversations coming in the LTP. Yeah. Councillor Greening?
Yeah, just in relation to para 14, and acknowledging, I think the CEO's undertaking to keep staffing levels low. Just wondering why we're not taking the opportunity to apply a sinking lid on staffing levels.
The relevance to this report is seeking that on
14
new
is seeking
staff.
to replace new staff. I would have thought an opportunity to apply a sinking lid if we're trying to bring staff levels down. So I'm just wondering, are we applying a sinking lid or are we not?
Well, I think there
What's
must
going
be
in?
some positions that we have to fill. So
Leonie's
that we
online,
actually
so
get the mahi
I'll,
done.
The high level overview of that was that we carried out a Leonie, with
Yeah, there you go, Leonie.
Kia ora. Firstly, we are keeping staffing levels the same, not a sinking lid, so that's to be clear, because we know that we've got more work to do into the future. So we're making sure that we put the resources where it's needed. So we do some shuffling around at this stage. The LTP will inform what levels of service you want to drop potentially, or services we want to drop, and then we can address that sinking lid. In terms of what is being put forward in this paper, is that we have had a reshuffle in the Rivers team. The two people have been made redundant because their roles were redundant, and we've actually now replaced them with more experienced river engineers, so that we've got the right people doing the right jobs. So that was a change proposal that went through recently, and David has led through that. So you might want to speak a bit more about that, David, but that's the context for that one.
I can provide more information, Councillor Greening, if you'd like. It was like Leonie said, it was to get the right kind of expertise in the position, but we can discuss that in more detail separately if you'd like.
I don't know, will that put pressure on your OPEX budget then, or is it still revenue neutral in terms of these changes?
Who's going to answer that?
Sorry, I'm doing some mental math. They are slightly different positions, so imagine there would be a slight effect. The affected staff members have been off for. Rob Smith, I think, is looking to contribute there.
Thanks, Rob.
Yeah, just through the chair, properly this time. Just to be really clear, the restructure of David's team was done within the existing budget. So we didn't come back to council and ask for any additional funds for this. What David's done is actually right-size the work to what's needed. And as you just heard from Councillor Walker, the demand is so great out there, the cost of this work is so high, we're actually using consultants to try and fill the gap while we try and get staff. These are the same staff that everybody else wants. So David's in a really intractable situation at the moment of trying to get the resources to do the job properly and meeting community demand, and this is one of our most expensive parts of council in the non-road and water space. So it's a really hard thing. From my point of view, I congratulate David and Leonie for allowing us to do this, to actually review the whole team and say how, within the existing resources, how can we best support our community. So he's done an amazing job of this. And as we get those positions, as we make our way through this flood recovery work, you will start to see the benefit to this, and this is huge. This is in our face. This is the stuff where we're with the community here. So it's, this is not the area where we should be talking about reductions in staff.
But just to be clear, because you've replaced 2 roles with 2 new roles, which sound like they're more qualified and therefore would require more remuneration. Are you saying that you haven't increased your OPEX budget to recruit these people? And if we are we then looking holistically across the organisation as an ELT and going, we need to pull back funding in another area to fund this really important work over here?
I'll answer that one. Councillor Greening, we're constantly looking across the organisation trying to balance where the need is. In terms of it not costing any more, it was within the OPEX budget. So the people that we have now gone, we've paid, yes, absolutely, but they were well below what our operational budget was in that area. We are also having to use consultants because these people that we need are very hard to find. And I have talked to a lot of my regional council partners and around the rivers space. They are way more resourced than we are. We are running really thin, and I congratulate David on the amount of work he had to do through those floods. It all fell on his shoulders, significant amount. We are constantly in ELT every week when we have any business case is brought forward for a new FTE, a replacement of an FTE, etc. We look across the whole organisation and say, could we repurpose a vacancy somewhere else to fill that role? So it's not about what's in my team, it's about what we've got. So we do it holistically. And you need to trust that we do that. We're way below our FTE count. We're not intending to increase that through the LTP. And this is a conversation that I think we're very happy for you to come and see me and we can talk offline about the details. I'm not doing that in a public meeting.
Just as a follow-up, you've indicated there's a reduction in FTEs. When will we get a report on that? Because we normally get it.
It was pulled from the last information forum because we ran out of time, but there is a report.
So it'll be coming to information forum, or?
Yes, so we're coming to the next information forum.
Fantastic, thank you.
Right, thank you, Councillor Hume.
I will leave mine, it's quite a bit involved, so we'll leave it to the workshop.
Thank you. Councillor Neudau.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I apologise, but I think the signal is really important. This report is called the Coastal and Rivers Structures Report, and I wonder whether that in itself shows an unnecessarily narrow focus on your report when you're actually dealing with the management of rivers and coastal areas. So in the management, I would see things like wetlands, floodlands, land uses within catchments and coastal areas, and I would really appreciate if that could form part of your report and part of this thinking. So we're not only thinking about structures, but actually also about mitigation measures that ecosystem services can provide. And I'll leave it at that. I don't expect an answer, and I think we can flesh this out in workshops and the LTP process later on.
Councillor Morgan.
I would support that, to have it wider in terms of a catchment perspective. The question I've got, however, is a comment from yourself, is around with the river situation and the storms, where we are or are not repairing private property owners' property. I don't get a sense of the extent of that, and do we have clarity on our policy that is quite clear and directs management in terms of how that's done?
in terms of what we decide to.
Your decision making about spending ratepayers' money on repairing private people's property.
We don't necessarily engage in repairing the property itself. There's been a number of areas along many rivers where significant portions of land, hectares and hectares of land, have just disappeared. We don't put the land back. We, shift some gravel around, we realign the banks, install rock protection, and we do that to prevent further adjustment of these rivers. Because once they start eating in someplace new, they'll continue going down that way. So the level of service, I guess you could say, is about alignment control. It's about a corridor control, trying to make the river behave within these sort of lines. When the river does actually come up and scour away that land, it's gone. We absolutely do not restore the land to a usable condition. That's something that the landowners themselves could attempt if it makes sense, requiring resource consent and integration with our river protection works. But it's not a guarantee. The river rating is not a guarantee against land loss.
So, for example, I've just driven to Christchurch and back, and I was observing the roads and rock wall construction. There's quite a lot of rock wall construction on some rivers.
Councillor Morgan, do you have a quick question?
Yeah, the quick question is that investment in rock wall, for instance, protecting a state highway. I'm presuming we would be getting financial support from the government for that sort of work.
That's delivered through NZTA, completely separate from us.
Okay, so my next question was then, when are we going to get a reconciliation on the money that we spent, the $50 million, and apparently the ratepayers have carried 15 million of it. When will we get the numbers on a note? We're talking.
I think it was covered last week. I think we had a report that's been opened and they're working through the process now. Okay, I'm going to carry on with the, thank you, David, for your report. I have a mover that we receive the report. That's Councillor Butler. Councillor Neubauer has seconded it. I'll put that motion. All of those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Right, motion carried. Thank you so much, David, for answering all those questions. It sounds like it's going to be a fun workshop when we get to it.
July 1st, Canada Day.
Oh, I love that we love to do that sort of thing. Okay, so next up we have the Regulatory Managers Report. This will be fun, noting that we're just going to keep on working through. Everybody, we're at our time. Please keep, again, I've asked that we keep questions short and relevant to the report. If there's anything that we need to cover later, we can you let us know and we can talk to the managers about getting another workshop in if that's required. Thank you. Take it away, Shane.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to present this report. I take it that the report has been read and hopefully it's accepted. But before I open up to any questions, this report only does not cover the Resource Management Act compliance team's work. That will be reported in the next opportunity. Also some clarity around, you'll notice there's some stats around health and safety, which is X number. That is all health and safety incidents that were logged. For the purpose of any clarity, there are 17 health and safety incidents that related to physical verbal abuse on staff. So that was that. You'll also note that the total number of dogs in the district decreased. We don't know the true reason for that, other than many people may have left the district or not replacing dogs that have been deceased. And then also you'll notice that the number of parking infringements increased quite significantly during the festive period or this reporting period. And that was around a deployment of staff to areas that required more vigilant enforcement around staff parking bay turnover and also along the coastal areas. So happy to open up and answer any questions now.
Thank you, Shane. Councillor McNamara.
Thanks. Happy to move the report. Just one question in light of the discussion earlier this morning. Do we know of 5 reports of these dogs attacking wildlife, if any of them were on cycleways?
Sorry, if any are along?
Cycleways?
Cycleways. No, the one that we prosecute or issued an infringement to was in the Kaiteri area.
So they weren't attacking animals adjacent to cycleways?
No, not that we know.
Thank you. Councillor Kinamont.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Page 61, clause 4.4. You talk about a minor dissatisfaction was noted at the Newdorf concert where a bottle of wine could not be sold due to licensing conditions. Sorry to bring this up, Shane. But can, if there's going to be any future concerts at Newdorf, is it possible that our friendly mayor next door could get his bottle of wine unopened? And
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, that was one of the conditions that was put forward to the organisers. They chose not to have the bottled wine sold at that event. So it's part of the conditions that that they've asked for.
so is the concert organiser that chose that, not our... Wow, thank you.
Yeah, the conditions are often agreed with parties in this process. Councillor Walker.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you so much for your report. I guess I want to acknowledge the work that the team are doing when it comes to the freedom camping, and I guess we're all mindful because we've got it right here, right across the road, where Nelson City Council have used the powers to move people on. So their problem has now become ours. So when we're looking at the stats and the figures that you're providing, I'm grateful that you're doing referrals to social services, okay, Sally's or MSD. But I just wonder if we ever keep a register of, particularly if people are having to use vehicles as their place of shelter. And are we mindful that when we move them from one place, we just reposition that problem to the next door neighbour's doorstep kind of thing? So do we keep stats on, are they the same people, or have we got a growing number?
Yes, Councillor, we do keep stats. We have a spreadsheet, and we actually track where they go from one place in the district to the next, and officers would record them again. Also the reason for being homeless, and then also if there are any threats for us to be aware of, whether they're hostile or not. So the answer, short answer, yes, we do keep stats on
Cool, because I'm just trying to glean an understanding of how many people are becoming displaced because they can't afford to live in their homes that they currently have. That's part of my questioning. The other thing is that when we do infringement notices for our freedom camping, there's a lot of resources going in for staff to do that. What is the percent rate of us getting those infringements actually paid?
It's a process that has to be followed, but at the moment it's not a high percentage that get paid. Most people will write in and they will get onto the defence that they're homeless and then put that in their defence, and we have to accept it. So not a high percentage of revenue coming back through infringements.
Thank you. Councillor Woods.
Thank you. Very good report. Appreciate it. Through the chair. Menacing dogs is an issue that many communities are very worried about. I was aware of an issue that was brought up at the Tasman area Community Association where a petition was raised from the local community around some menacing dogs in the Awa Road, Marriages Road area. I think the response they received was that there'd been some turnover in the personnel in the dog control area, and that meant the communication had been lost. The reason that it was an issue is that I think some children returning from school had been threatened by the menacing dogs. So I'm just wondering, is there a process whereby changes in staff, and I know that happens, but the complaints around menacing dogs can be kept current, because menacing dogs are frightening for children. And yeah.
Yep. So, yes, Councillor, and we agree. You'll note in the report, given the headlines in the media recently about fatal dog attacks on people, and we thought it's good that we will put that table in there for you to be aware of dog attacks in our area. Through the new CRM system, we are capturing all those complaints now and being followed up on. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any more questions? Noting I have, oh, sorry, Councillor Morgan, didn't see your hand.
For clarity, it's concerning the noise complaints, but what I was trying to understand in that, does that drive a lot more activity from our officers having to go out to those properties? Or is it just a communication one, the complaints?
We do have to go out. We have a contractor that goes out at night for loud music, etc. During the day, our staff will go out. We also do investigate machinery noise from businesses, etc. So
well, that's a huge increase.
No, for the number of noise complaints, you'll note that it's only for 1 month in this year, because we moved over to the CRM system. So, sorry, I meant to put that in my briefing.
That allays my concern, thank you.
No, it's not a concern, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butler?
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to second the report, and thank you for all the hard work that you do, particularly over in our rohi of Golden Bay. I think we've actually are moving forward over there, so thank you, team.
Thank you. So we've got a mover and a seconder. I'd just like to make a comment, actually, Shane. Noting in the report that we are still having issues around the safety of our staff. And we do have some, you know, they are now wearing body cameras and things that we're trying to protect their health and safety. What is the... are there things that we need to be doing better to protect the safety of our staff? Because there is no way anyone should be coming to work and being in a dangerous situation.
I think we're doing the best we can at the moment, Madam Chair. Improvements that we're looking at long term would probably the use of technology, but that's another discussion and another paper that I'll put forward around the use of technology around number plate recognition and using that as an option to help improve staff safety. We focusing a lot on training at the moment, and every second week staff have dedicated time set to do training. So that seems to be helping, and also continuous encouragement to report so we know what is going on.
Excellent, thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. I'd like to put that we accept, we receive the regulatory manager's report. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carried. Okay, so that brings us to the end of the open part of our agenda. So we need to move that. I'll just find that we move a resolution to move into confidential session, noting that we will have Trail Manager Brenda Crisp in the session. So can I have a mover for that? Moving into confidentiality, Councillor McNamara, seconded Councillor Kinnamonth. I spotted him first. I was just trying to get the brain engaged, noting that Councillor Melling is leaving the room. So I'd like to put that motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye.